Hey, hi everybody. Okay, and I'll go to the next slide. Welcome to our community leaders uh, task force monthly meeting. So glad that you guys came. We love seeing you every month, and sorry that I was not around next month, but glad to be back. And these meetings are recorded, which is nice because if you do have a day where you can't come or a month you can't come, you can just catch up on the recording. My name is Christy Roberts, here with Lisa Greeny.
Hi, Christy Roberts.
And
Uh, and who else is here with us?
Leah.
Leah Wave.
And Apurva's here visiting in St. Louis. So, hey, Apurva, glad you're here. So, let's get into the agenda that we have today. So Lisa is going to be
That's
going to you're so calm already. That's hard to believe. Anyway, okay, so we're going to start by grounding. Lisa's going to ground us in who we are and the why of this community leader work. And then I've got some news on the Facebook page if you haven't heard it already. I'll give you kind of the updates on that. Um, and then, of course, what was recently placed on the Facebook page around the CCDF state plan. We're going to have some breakout dialogue finally today. We have been wanting to talk about funding support for our earliest learning learners. So those kids and those providers that provide care to our babies 6 weeks up to pre-K or kindergarten. So we're finally going to get to dive into that and just kind of look at it together. And then we're going to close by planning ahead for our next meeting and hopefully partnering with you better as far as bringing your expertise to the table and offering to perhaps bring a topic for discussion that you'd want to lead. So that is our agenda. So, Lisa, you want to take it away with the community
Sure.
leader work?
And you guys, this meeting, the way I run meetings, if you're in any other work teams that I'm at, if you have questions, just come off mute, raise your hand, say, hey, Lisa, I got a question, because sometimes we come across ideas right away, and I don't want anybody to forget anything that they're thinking. 2 weeks ago, or maybe it was last week, I can't remember. I attended a meeting with the community leaders in the other 6 regions in the state of Missouri. So the Office of Childhood divided up the state of Missouri into 7 different regions. And we here, this leadership task force is for the St. Louis region. St. Louis County, St. Louis City, and St. Charles County. If you're not in those 3 counties, you can log off now. I'm just kidding. That was a joke. But we are representing the St. Louis region, those 3 counties. And as representing St. Louis in Jefferson City, as the community leader for this community, Apurva Sunder, who is with us today with the Office of Childhood, shared the following vision of our community leader work that I just wanted to share with you this afternoon so that we can continue to be on the same page. I love saying the word same page. So as we know, the Office of Childhood's mission is to ensure that all children are safe, healthy, and successful learners. And I think most of us here have heard that before. But what does that really look like? Safe, healthy, and successful learners. Next slide. So to Apurva, when she spoke a couple weeks ago, and to me, it means children coming into kindergarten ready to take on the world. I'll quote Apurva by saying, little ones with light hearts, strong bodies, and big smiles, walking into school on that first day ready to learn. How do we get there, though? How do we get to ensuring our kids are kindergarten ready? We know that kindergarten readiness does not begin in pre-K, but much earlier. Some would say at birth, but I think we all know it really starts prenatally. What we also know is that children do not exist in a vacuum. They exist within the context of their families and their caregivers. Next slide. We must widen our lens then to include families in our work. All of you include families. I'm not saying anything new, but we must always remember thriving families help our work. If we want children to be successful, we must also look for the adults in their lives to be successful. If we want adults to be successful, these adults must know what services and supports exist in their local communities and how to access them. Kindergarten readiness then depends on the question of access. Next slide. Where we might have thought it adequate to focus on quality early childhood services to build kindergarten ready children. And yes, these quality early childhood programs are critical, essential, absolute for this process. We must also look at additional other supports and resources as well. Families needs access to necessities like food, housing, and transportation. Families need access to health services, whether medical, mental health, or dental care. Families need access to adult education and job supports or recreational opportunities where they can just be together with their children and have fun. We call, in my work, we call that everyday places and spaces. And at each point, we must ensure that access is easy, efficient, and affirming of these folks' humanity. We are very fortunate in the state of Missouri and extremely fortunate in St. Louis to have so many phenomenal programs and organizations providing these valuable resources and services to our families with young children. While parents appreciate and families appreciate the resources that exist, what we've learned is what they would really like to see these organizations working together to provide the best kind of support. What parents were saying was that coordination and collaboration among services would greatly improve their access. So there you go, number 5. Good job, Christy. So let's look at collaboration. To work together, organizations must really know the services that other organizations provide. And I'm going off script here. I think many on this call think, oh, I know of all the organizations here in St. Louis. But do we truly know them all to be able to get every family what they need? They must have opportunities to build networks, to grow relationships. We need to grow our relationships. We need to continue to grow trust with each other. And as we do this, we move from working in our silos, and they could be geographic silos or provider silos or organization silos, to now working collaboratively across the entire St. Louis region to serve families. So just this gives you a little understanding of the background. The Office of Childhood recognized for the collaboration to be truly effective, it needed to occur at the local level. That's us, guys, the local level here in St. Louis. Each region or community, they realized in Missouri, has its own needs and strengths. What works for one does not necessarily work for another. We need collaboration in these local communities. The Office of Childhood cannot build a local St. Louis collaboration from their central office in Jefferson City. The Office of Childhood needs local leaders, us, knowledge about the local St. Louis area landscape to do this work, align communities, early childhood priorities, strengthen local networks, and create an environment of coordination and collaboration. Well, this is interesting. This is a little different. Okay, next slide. What's going backwards? I forgot that it's going backwards. Nope, go back. Sorry, guys. This is just how I roll. People are used to this. We'll keep it right there. When we have local leaders, see the bottom, leading an environment of collaboration, let's go back up. We are better able to inform and educate families about the resources and supports available to them. When families are better informed, hi, Melinda. When families are better informed, they're more likely to access the resources and supports they need. When they access and support the resources they need, they're likely to be successful. And when they are more successful, their children are more likely to be successful and therefore more likely to be ready when time comes for kindergarten. As local community leaders, we have three primary goals. Us right here, the 24 of us today, plus the 10 others that are going to listen to the call later. First, to grow the awareness of the importance of early childhood in the St. Louis region. I feel like my whole life I've been spending talking about the importance of early childhood in our region, but we have to continue. Oh boy, Christy, you're so good at this.
I'm just following your lead, man.
All right. Um, to grow the awareness of the importance of early childhood in the St. Louis region by educating our community about how vital the early years are to child's growth and development. Many of us are like, yeah, and we need to do more. There's always more to do. Second, to work on growing awareness of the services that exist in the St. Louis region. Throughout the region, if you have a family that lives in South County that goes to North County, do you know those resources throughout the entire region? And finally, to build collaboration among us, the services to improve families' access. How can we do this? And stay on this slide. We have created a St. Louis area early childhood plan currently focusing on communicating funding opportunities for both providers and families. Why are we focused on funding opportunities? Because that's what you told us. That's what you told us in our meetings, that we needed to currently focus on. Not forever, but just currently. This plan started with the creation of our St. Louis Region Childhood Community Leader Facebook group that Christy's going to talk about later. And this priority communicating funding is just the beginning. We're going to meet monthly. We're going to communicate regularly, email, Facebook, to create a space for us to collaborate and partner on local solutions to our barriers and to act on next steps. Third, we're going to communicate about services and provide the access tools for our leadership team to easily communicate the services to all stakeholders. So if there is a new service, then we're going to be posting that and allow you to be able to repost on your platforms, whether it's social media, newsletter, whatever. And lastly, we're going to create a two-way bridge of communication between the St. Louis Region Childhood Community Leaders, us, and the Office of Childhood at the state level in order to best serve providers and families. Next slide. And that's the bridge. Does anybody have any questions? You can come off mute or you can put it in the chat. Cool. I hope you will share this with everybody in your organization, your office, just so we really understand. Oh, and here you go. We're the pink. We're the little pink guys. We are the smallest geographic region, but we are, as you can probably imagine, the densest. Next slide.
All right. So is this me?
Yeah, it's you.
We're so happy you guys come. It's so great. So, like Lisa said, as part of our St. Louis region's just communication plan, we're going to continue to gather monthly. Getting you guys together is a real treat, and but also we get you together not because you're all just beautiful people, but you understand the early childhood landscape, and so we want to be informed of that. We want to inform each other and really enrich in that collaboration part of the base of that pyramid. And of course, provide clear communication to early childhood providers and families, and of course, prioritizing funding right now. So That's our purpose statement right now. We're elevating, we're clearly articulating to providers and families the information they need to fund quality early childhood education. So, want to give you just an update. Last month, Leah and Lisa invited you to join our Facebook group page, and they were just coming in fast and furious, and I was all excited. But realized that you all were only able to view what I posted there. You weren't able to share what I posted there. You weren't able to share or communicate anything to that page because it's a private page. So Lisa and I are new at this, and we appreciate your patience. We have needed some support in even setting the group page up. So we did switch it now from private to public, and Lisa, do you have this link that you can actually put in the chat, because they won't be able to click
Yes, of
on
course.
this link in the slide, but here's the link to it. So this is the Facebook page. Looks exactly the same as the old one. We just deleted the old one. So join it, and this is going to be our communication platform. Lisa and I commit to posting weekly right now about funding opportunities, keeping in mind we want the audience to be early childhood. Oh, thank you, Leah.
Oh,
Early childhood providers and families of young children. So keep in mind your audience. And then we invite you to share what we post, but also want you to share your early childhood events, your resources, opportunities, stories. Those are all would be great additions to this page. And so we need your help to promote this community leader page by first joining it, sharing it, sharing the information, and adding information that fulfills that purpose of, and we've got it in the about. I think we described that, we're elevating and clearly articulating our communication plan at this time.
and I
So,
will add that anything that we post that is about funding, we're featuring it. So we're clicking on featured and we're featuring, since that is our priority, that we make sure that the messaging from the Office of Childhood or any other funding for families and providers is featured on that site.
and keep in touch if we are doing something wrong. You let us know. Because we do appreciate that support. Do you want to, Lisa, tell us about that post that I put last
Yeah.
week about
Oh, and
the
I'm supposed to
state
post this.
plan?
Yes, so everybody, I think most people are aware. Whoops, what is going on? I think most people are aware, and I will put this in the chat next.
Or I
About,
can while you're talking. Go
okay,
ahead.
Christy, that's great, because it takes me like
Mm-hmm.
5 minutes longer than everybody else.
No, you're fine.
About the Child Care and Development Fund state plan. This is very, very important for everybody in this call to be part of. This is the plan that the Office of Childhood gives to, or I should say, the Office of Childhood will give to the federal government. That's the plain and simple way of saying this. And so this will affect funding for 2025 through 2027. So we highly encourage everyone on this call. I think there's one last Zoom. Is that the Saturday? That you can go in, and it's open for you to talk the entire time and to put in your suggestions. And I also highly suggest that you read it because it's going to affect everybody, this plan, just like the previous plan. So that's it.
Okay.
Any questions? And Christy just posted in the chat.
All right. So then our next, we've got
Yes, please comment. Thank you, Lisa Shear.
yeah, do. We want your voices heard.
And and Christy, I don't want to. We had talked yesterday. We're going to about bringing your expertise to the table, and then we were going to go into the funding for 0 to 5. So
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
sorry about
So
that.
yeah, and we have it makes me happy because we have plenty of time to kind of dialogue around this because we've been wanting to do that. So but before we break out and discuss what we wanted to discuss, we wanted to ask for you to help us in planning our next meetings together. And really it's really important for us to understand what's happening in the early childhood landscape, and that you all are interested in getting our heads around. So if you have something, if you have a topic, um, please let Lisa and I know either by email or maybe you've got something that's just you're on fire about that you want to put in the chat. We'd love to talk to you about potentially, having that as our discussion and you perhaps leading that discussion on our next meeting together. So just be thinking about that.
And you can come off mute too.
Yeah,
Um,
definitely.
what are what are things that we as a group can help answer?
And yeah, and
And
be solution based and just really get
correct.
our heads around. I mean, Lisa and I have our own ideas about things, but we could be completely wrong. So we want that feedback. So I did put a slide here of some of the other topics that in our priority survey that you were interested in talking about, and we're going to talk about the supports for children entering kindergarten, but maybe we want to talk about best practices and how we elevate that, or supporting those families with children with disabilities, prenatal resources, communicating outreach activities and resources. So all of those can happen in real time on our Facebook page. Um, but
We
we
can
we also
elevate.
want to get together and talk about them, yeah, during these meetings. So and before we go into that breakout discussion, which Lisa is going to lead, we also want you to be inviting people to this meeting. The more the merrier, and we have some gaps. We could use some healthcare providers, families, definitely families other than our own, which we know we have our own families, and so that makes us the best advocates for early childhood. But maybe you have a family, and you want to bring their voice to the table. Businesses, the WIC office, United Way, just some ideas of people and places that aren't represented yet in our task force. So
Hey, I have a question in the chat, and I think there's people on this call that can answer it. Who is leading the sales tax effort for early childhood education in St. Louis City and County? And where can we get more information? Can anybody on here answer that?
Is Paula on
That's what I was just looking for. I'm like, is Paula on
here? I
here?
thought I saw her.
I'm here. Can y'all hear me?
Yeah.
Okay.
Hey, can you?
I thought you were funny. I thought you were being funny. I'm sorry. Can you say the question again for?
It says, who is leading the sales tax effort for early childhood education in St. Louis City and County? Where can we get more information?
It's me. Sorry, everyone's calling me at the same time in real time. Okay, so long answer is short answer is it's me, and I would love to connect to talk to you more. Long answer is, as we know, there's a lot happening at the state level right now with the filibuster, and that potentially will impact what this looks like for both St. Louis City and St. Louis County. But these efforts are looking at what it looks like to create a sustainable funding source for both of these spaces so that our children 0 to 5 have a funding source outside of only having subsidy. This effort looks different also as well in St. Louis City and County. So it's best to reach out to me directly. I'll drop my my email in the chat because it looks very different at the city or county level. For the city, I will say on this past Monday for Day Without Childcare, a large group of providers, thank you to those that are on the call that attended, Lisa Shear, now she loved her some St. Louis City children because she shows up there and then made her way to Jefferson City as well to testify at the state. But on Monday, we had a group of providers, parents, and community advocates meet as Board Bill 7 was introduced. This is Paula the person speaking. There was a great deal of misinformation being pushed out, and that was still pushed out regarding it. I will say in the coming week, we will have more information publicly shared so that we can respond to that. But also in knowing that this is being championed by Shameen Clark Hubbard, Alderwoman Shameen Clark Hubbard, who is of Ward 10. And this is looking at what it looks like to have a sustainable funding source in a multi-delivery space for all children 0 to 5. So I'll put my email in the chat right now. Can you give us the skinny version of the? It's not that, but I can't give you anything.
Yeah, we're gonna have Kristen come off mute, but I have before that, the city seemed to be do a very great job last go around when there was additional money brought to early childhood. In St. Louis County, and Paula, you'll have to, in St. Louis County, there was money set aside for early childhood, but yet it never seemed to get to any providers. Are we going back a different way so that St. Louis County, if this passes, like it passed before, that money actually goes to providers and families? Can you explain that?
So I think what you're referring to are the ARPA dollars that the PPAG advocated for St. Louis County. All is not lost there. There is potential for us to regather and demand that money be paid into a different space to support early childhood. I do believe that the timeline originally we were advocating for teachers and wages. I do believe that the time clock for that has really run out for it to be that. But in conversations with different electives, it does sound as though that money could be reallocated or like put back into like the pot and then reallocated. So all is not lost there. There's still an opportunity, and I would love to see us come together to demand that funding goes into a space like Joyful Spaces, and someone like Alicia Lanier that's on the call that has lifted up Joyful Spaces could build up or build out what it looks like for St. Louis County providers to access that, to then use that funding for their spaces, which by way benefits our children and could potentially offset costs. So all is not lost there. We would need to move very quickly and like have a meeting about that like ASAP to start getting those conversations going. But for the initial funding demand of going to teachers and wages, I do believe that time clock is out. So
I can speak to that real quick.
Sure, Beth Ann.
So the difficulty is that the council and the county executive's office are still fighting over the budget for 2024. So the wages money for the salary supplement is caught with 6 other entities who can't get the money, not because we don't have it, but because the council refuses to approve the 2024 budget for the county executive. So he is saying that without that money, he won't have staff to execute the contracts for ARPA and to do all that. So all of the ARPA money has to be allocated by the county by September 30th of this year. If they would, between now and September 30th, actually move as a council and a county executive, and I just checked with the county executive's office last week. So this still holds true. If they would move that before that date, something can happen. After, as of October 1st of 2024, that ARPA funding for wages and teach cannot be allocated. We've been told it can't be allocated for anything else. So the county executive's office has told us it can't be repurposed. But I don't know, because what the council does and what the county executive does, I still don't quite understand. We thought we went through all the right channels, but it's politics, right? So that the program, the wages program with Teach and 6 others have been in pretty much a standstill.
Budget.
We're all ready, but we can't do a thing because there's no contract. We've worked since 2022 to get one. And
And I
then
think-
the
I think-
last minute, the budget, which has nothing to do with us, right? But the budget has held it up. So how they can move forward and when, I don't know, but Paula is exactly right that the timing is paramount. We've actually tried to involve the media and it just doesn't take, it doesn't have enough. I
Too
don't,
complicated. It's too
well, and I
complicated.
don't, it's not that they don't care, but there's so many other things. And I think people are really used to government not coming through. That sounds horrible. And I don't mean it to sound horrible, but there's kind of a, you know, an overall, oh yeah, well, tell me something I don't know. And so, and we've even contacted some of our state senators and they're like, well, we really don't have any power over this. It's local government. So if anybody knows a different way, please
Yeah.
contact me.
If I could-
Absolutely.
If I could say really quick, yeah, the timeline that I was referring to is more so like what it looks like to actually be able to spend the money out in the amount of time. I did have several electeds tell me in professional spaces that it can be reallocated. Right now, I don't have the capacity to take that on alone. So if we could, I think because of other attention that ECE is getting right now, this could be a great opportunity to relight that fire because you know, there's conversation in the media right now where maybe it wasn't a hot topic before, but it could be a hot topic now. So whatever we need to do to make sure that that money makes it to St. Louis County providers.
Absolutely. I have a question, Paula, or anybody on this. So as we go down this this money not being allocated to providers, money that was for wages and teach that was voted on, is there something else happening in St. Louis County in addition to getting additional revenue for providers, a second initiative? Or is it just trying to get the funds that have already been allocated, budgeted and out?
For the ARPA dollars? Or
For St. Louis County, yeah.
So I think that's a completely separate conversation. So the ARPA
Okay.
dollars are allocated, press releases went out, pictures with providers went out. That's a completely different conversation. That money was
And-
ever distributed, whereas St. Louis City immediately paid their money out. So that is a completely different conversation because it was one. And so that's
Right.
just like of making sure that
Yeah.
it happens. For right now, there is pending what the state legislation looks like for the filibuster that's ongoing. We will have, I can give you a stronger answer by Friday at 6 p.m.
Sounds great. I
And-
really appreciate it. Go ahead, Joanne.
Yeah, thanks. And the Early Education District is still working on fully funding pre-K through the public schools. We're waiting on legislation that's sitting in Jefferson City before we'd be able to fund it with property taxes on a countywide level. So that is sort of stalled because we do not have the auspices to form a district under DESE, which would be the most efficient way to partner with public schools to then have universal pre-K.
Does everybody understand what Joanne's referring to? And this was Tracy McCreary's put the
It's-
legislation forward
it-
and
Yeah, that's Tracy McCreary's legislation.
please just say if you don't know, I mean, as I understand this, is that much like special school district is in St. Louis County, and you as a teacher are employed by special school district, but you're then assigned, I don't know the right word for it, assigned to a school throughout St. Louis County. This early childhood, what are we calling it? District,
Early
early
education
child,
district. Mhm.
the early childhood district would be function in a very similar way, but it would provide pre-K teachers to school districts?
It
Am I
would,
correct?
yes, and it would be universal. It would be funded to the extent that it would serve every 4-year-old in St. Louis County with access through the public schools.
Got it.
And in order to secure state money, we're looking to form a district under DESE.
Got it. And Casey, I would like you, I don't know why I can't respond, but Casey Hansen, would you
You're
mind
okay,
talking
yeah.
about some new state funding?
I did just want to say while the conversation was happening, some of the things that have happened in Jeff City, I know there's other things hanging in the balance. But the legislature passed and the governor signed Senate Bill 727, which you might have heard a lot about because it has a lot of different components to it. But one component I would elevate is that it expanded funding for pre-K. So districts are currently allowed to access 4% of their free and reduced lunch population to fund pre-K. This would allow them to access up to 8%. So it's an expansion of the formula funding they're able to access to fund pre-K. The budget the legislature approved also continued the MOQPK grants. So there's $56 million to fund pre-K through MOQPK in LEAs and charter schools. And then there's $26 million to fund quality pre-K grants through childcare programs. They also, subsidy is kind of a tricky one. I think from the provider side, it is good because providers' rates will go up this summer. Infant and toddler will be paid at the 100th percentile. Preschool and school age will be paid at the 65th percentile. There's kind of a bigger challenge of whether we're going to have the money to continue funding that going forward. So there will definitely be a battle and an advocacy opportunity for those interested in future years to make sure that the legislature funds or gives the subsidy program enough money to fund those rates ongoing. But in the short term, I think it'll be a pretty significant gain for providers throughout the state. So.
And Casey, if a school district gets their 8% for pre-K, 8% funding for pre-K, they can continually, if they don't have the capacity at their school district level to offer pre-K, they can give that money then to any childcare facility in their community. Is that true?
School districts, by statute, school districts are able to contract with childcare providers in the community to provide pre-K. I wouldn't say it's anyone because there are a fair number of, they have to meet certain qualifications to do that. The biggest barrier right now is for school districts that contract with childcare providers, they require certificated teachers, which is a challenge for, it's not a standard that's been recognized in the childcare community ever. So with MOQPK, we were able to get DESE to change the teacher certification requirements to align with NAEYC educator standards, which is a little bit different, but is, focused on child development. So we are kind of working, and my understanding is there's active rulemaking being drafted, hopefully, to align the pre-K certification standards for contracted programs with the same standards as the MOQPK program. But that's a long process.
Got it. I was happy about Senate Bill 7272 because it increased teacher pay. And I know this is just with the public and charter schools, but starting salary for teachers in Missouri was 25,000. Now it's up to 40,000, signed by our governor. And many people in this room here are not in the public school system. Some are, but I think it's an understanding that our educators, all of our educators, need to get paid more. So, yeah,
Yeah, I
okay.
do also think absolutely 100% behind teacher raises too, but I do think we also have to consider how, with public schools starting at that level, that does create a challenge as well for our early childhood workforce looking for educators in their program that can't compete. So it is definitely important, but yeah, we have to keep fighting for the entire early education workforce to be paid more as well.
Excellent. All right. So Christy, yes, we need to move on, but it really does segue into what we were wanting to discuss with you, because we feel that we're talking about you guys bringing to the forefront issues today that you're dealing with. We want to make sure that we're bringing issues to the forefront before they become serious issues. And this is something that I'm concerned with, and I kind of guess this with Casey a little bit too, is that how do we make sure that providers, our pre-K programs are not going to take care of children who are 6 weeks old, right? Don't think there's any plan for that. So how do we ensure that providers, right, can who take care of our 6 week to 36-month-olds who may lose their 4 and 5-year-olds? How do we ensure funding, equitable funding for both? So Christy, you want to take it from there?
Well, I mean,
We
I
could just
I
open
had
it up here.
mentioned that we can go out in breakout groups, or we could just pose
Keep
that
going.
question
Does
to the larger group.
anybody? Yeah, I think we should do it as a larger group because I think some people here can really bring light to it, and so many of us can learn from it. But how do we? I mean, we've got to elevate all boats, guys. We have to. There was a woman who I was talking with that said, education has been subsidized on the backs of teachers and families for far too long. So when we talk about equitable funding, we're not talking bottom line funding. We're talking about real funding that pays a good salary to our early childhood educators. At the same time, a good salary for our public and charter school teachers. So, and what did Casey say? It's going to take a long time.
When we looked at the 0 through 5 landscape in St. Louis County, for funding 0 through 5, we came up with $1 billion price tag. So we're talking about a lot of money. And how do you do all of that, and where do you start? And that's why our group was looking at pre-K, looking at least stepping it downward, get the 4-year-olds taken care of, and then we can do the 3s and the 2s and the 1s and the little bitties. But $1 billion ask all at once, that's simply not there. So where do we start? Do we do what we can when we can? I don't think we can solve the whole problem all at once unless someone's got $1 billion a year to put into it. That would be fully funding it, from external sources.
I wonder how much we spend on prisons in Missouri.
Oh, I keep saying we'd rather build preschools than prisons, way too much.
Right.
And we know that, pre-K intervention interrupts the school to prison pipeline. I mean, there's
Yes,
there's a direct
right.
correlation. Yeah.
Right. But how do you get, right?
Yeah.
I don't think that people in the prison industry talk about $1 billion as being a lot of money.
Probably
I'm
not.
just being,
No.
I think we think of it as being a lot. But there's nothing
Yeah.
more important.
Yeah, and you know, and we've always said, you know, as public school advocates, you know, that we want public dollars to have public accountability. So that's something that I think is important as we look at all of these processes. You know, where did the public dollars go and how are they being used?
Whereas we learned earlier with St. Louis County, not used.
Or not used?
Used.
Yeah, how do we get them to children as expeditiously as possible?
Anybody else?
I think we do have to continue creating more inclusive tables too. I mean, I think, and this is not a knock to you guys at all for the meeting, but just, you know, the nature of this meeting and just when it is and all of those things too. I think getting all of those stakeholders, especially the providers at the table, and I see some, so I'm not saying there's none here, but I think in order to have meaningful and authentic collaboration, that's a key piece of it. So that's one comment I would make.
And families. And hey,
Absolutely.
Casey, give me your draft list of who you'd like to see. Let's make it happen. Is that cool?
Or is it already happening? I mean, are there other coalitions that have providers and public school representatives at the table that are working together?
I think, yes, that's right. So like I know Paula is on the call too, but like the PPAG is a great example in St. Louis of something happening where parents and providers are coming together. But also I think, you know, just in some of the conversations that have been happening lately, there does still seem to be kind of a disconnect between, or thinking that it's like public school versus private programs or that kind of thing. Or that's some of what I feel like the conversations, particularly in the media, have been. And I think being able to have meaningful dialogue, we do have to get everyone at the table because there are a lot of resources flowing into public schools. There's an opportunity for more resources in private programs, but we have to have everybody really collaborating to create this system. I also think a lot of the work that happens with children and families between 0 and 3 in particular, before they ever have the opportunity to hit the public school system, is what lays a foundation for their trajectory from pre-K through 12. So figuring out a way to more meaningfully make that case with that community, that it is so critical, you know, what's happening in this space and that we all do have a part of it. So.
Thank you. Paula?
Yeah, I would say one thing that we can do to really lean into this is really start calling out, especially if we're looking at how to elevate 0 to 36 months, is calling out directly, like there are no public seats, no public spaces that serve 0 to 36 months. And so often the conversation becomes,
We do.
a public space for free for any child.
We serve students based on free and reduced needs in Brentwood from 2 to 5.
Okay, so
So
0
we're
to
tuition paying and we have some free ones.
so
Not
that's-
birth to 2 though. I'd love to see that happen.
So that's-
We all would.
So that's good to know that Brentwood does it. And I would love to, because people ask me like, well, who's doing this? Because that's where it's like, if no one's doing it, the conversation is, well, no one's doing it. So, okay, so I'll change my statement to 0 to 24 months.
Just for district residents. So it's
Yeah.
And
But-
is
Yeah.
Brentwood the only one that
Well,
takes kids
the
down to age 2 for free?
we have to qualify on our sliding scale and go through a variety of different standards and there has to be space in the program. But yes, I don't know of other schools that serve 2-year-olds.
Yeah, so the reason I lifted this up was the pushback that I get is that especially the spaces that are centers, they're being like viewed as these private spaces that should get philanthropy dollars, or the dollars should be found somewhere else. And so I'm saying lifting it up of like, if there are not universal spaces for these children, then is it arguably public? Because it's like, yes, we have these spaces where some districts have universal pre-K. However, 0 to 24 months, are there spaces for them? No. So what's the conversation now of the pushback of, oh, well, I was lifting that up because that has been major pushback that I've been hearing from funders or potential funders of these spaces of saying they don't want to support centers, they don't want to support nonprofit or for-profit centers or like whatever that looks like because they're not hearing that they're public. And so if there are no publics for 0 to 24, then those are the spaces to be funding.
Fascinating, Paula. I just learned a great deal. And I think that that's what this group is all about, is bringing these to the forefront and to bring them to more people, as Casey says, to the forefront of where we are going. Due to time, I'm gonna, Christy, do you want to advance to the next slide about next steps? And our oops. We are not meeting on Wednesday, June 19th. That's Juneteenth Day. We apologize. Thank you, Leah. That was us doing things too fast and not deliberate enough. So we will probably meet the following Wednesday, and I will schedule out the third Wednesdays moving forward, except if there's a holiday, through December, if that's okay with everyone. So you can get them on your calendar.
Because this work is continuing. They want
work
us to
continuing.
keep, they want Lisa
We
and I
need-
to keep doing this with you guys.
Oh yeah, the opposite childhood.
So let's
does.
celebrate.
Who knew? And please, I get emails from people like, hey, can I invite this person to the group? Absolutely. Invite, and we need more voices, as Casey said. And we need to then start. So I'm looking at like STAR coaching. So there's one person here, Adrian, who's representing STAR coaching. The hope is that any of this information then that STAR coaching can take out to all of their members. So it's kind of a, you know, we all have our big, We Power does the same thing, but how do you do, you know, how can you continue to provide this information out to everybody that you're in contact with? And share that Facebook page, because we will share all of this information that we learned today and specifics on that Facebook group.
I have a suggestion to include Jamie Swindle. She is the new president of the Division of Early Childhood. I relinquished my role. Woohoo, 6 years of that.
Kristen,
So,
can you email me or put in the chat her
put it in the chat.
email address?
Mhm.
Awesome. You got it. Don't get too excited there.
And congratulations. Yeah.
Thank you. I'm a little excited. How about that? I mean, I got to kind of revive it after COVID, and we got it up and healthy and going, and it's time for somebody else to do it.
There you go. Love it.
All right. That's all
All
we've
right.
got. That's all we've got
Any
today.
last questions, concerns? I appreciate everybody's expertise and time. How do we get to kindergarten readiness? You guys remember? An hour ago?
Collaboration? Is that right?
Collaboration, leadership, strong families. And us as those local leaders. That's we've got to create this web. And I say that as if we haven't. We have an amazing web in St. Louis, but we got to continue to get stronger till every child has access to high quality early childcare, period. So let's keep building. Appreciate everybody on this call.
See you June 26th.
June 26th. You'll get an
Thanks,
email.
everybody.
Thank you.